Hello everyone and welcome to Project Insights Product Training Webinar. The topic for today is managing project budgets for professional services. So just a few things to know before we get started. All participants will be on mute. However, any questions you have are more than welcome. Please feel free to type them into the questions box, which you can find on your GoToWebinar panel. And also note that this webinar recording will be available within the Project Insight community. My name is Alexa, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm on the marketing team here at Project Insight, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to reach me at alexa.ortega-mendoza@projectinsight.com. And our presenter for today will be Margaret. She is our PI champion here. And some of the benefits of today's webinar are to understand the purpose of additional financial columns offered, and also to learn how to become more profitable as an organization. And on our agenda today, we'll go over how to add a professional services project, explore financial summary, as well as rates and contracts. You'll learn how to create a quick selection, learn about work billable total versus target billable total, incremental billing, the proposal, and also how to add actuals and about freeze panes. We're also going to set up milestone billing and help you understand project level budget data. And lastly, how to run advanced recovery and profitability reports. So before we get started, we're going to take a quick poll to see how all of you are currently managing your projects. So let us know if you're using Excel, MS Project, a low-end tool, sticky notes, whiteboards, napkins, or anything else you can write on. Or if it's something else like Project Insight, go ahead and type that into the questions box for us. So great. Looks like a couple of you are using Excel. A majority of you are currently using MS Project. And I see a couple of you are Project Insight users. So welcome to our Project Insight users. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Margaret.
Thanks, Alexa.
Yeah.
All right, so you should be seeing my screen right now. How's that looking, Alexa?
Looking good.
Awesome. So there is a very long agenda today. We got a lot to get through. So the beginning part here is going to go a little bit fast, but the beginning part here, I promise, is things like making a project. So if you are familiar with Project Insight, this is going to be a bit of a refresher, but the idea is that we'll get to the real meat and potatoes of this pinbox stuff rather quickly. So we're going to start by adding a professional services project, and you do that by navigating to a folder and hitting Add Project. This is the same thing you've done, quite a bit. Give it a name. Let's call it Build a Program. And the reason why I even started here in the first place is because a lot of times I wanted to make sure we touched on templates and using templates, not how to use templates. That's a whole other class. But the idea that the reason why you'd want to use a template for a professional services class is because this not only saves you time, but it ensures that important tasks are not missed because this is the stuff you do over and over again. And also it gives you a basis of estimates to work with when creating a new project. So in other words, when we do software development, we tend to follow these same steps, and it tends to follow this same amount of level of effort and duration as well. So that's really important that we, standardize around as a company in order to remain profitable. We should expect that it takes this long and it requires this much effort. I'm going to change the status to the active state for this one. The difference between planning and active states when it comes to budgeting and time is you can enter time more easily on active projects. So while you're in your building phase, you go ahead and build whatever you want. But of course, as soon as you're ready to go live and have people actually put time on it, change the project to active. All right, now for the moment you've been waiting for. Let's get to some of the target budget information. Of course, there's time and expense and billing information of which client am I doing this for, what contract am I going to use to establish rates, and I'll be talking about that in a moment. But let's spend some time talking about the target budget information. So in this particular situation, the target budget information has come over from the template in this case. And every client may be different, so let's go ahead and delete all these. First of all, I'm going to delete the target budget information because the difference between target budget and target budget billable is that target budget, first I'm going to close this left nav, give me a little more room here. The target budget is the cost that this is going to take from our company. So if you're doing professional services projects, some teams do want to track how much their hours cost them and get those actual totals to compare. And some teams just want one big target number that we're going to charge the client. So in our case, let's go with $100,000 of total budget billable. That's the total amount that we're going to bill the client. If I wanted to, as a project manager, I could break it down even further. We do offer you the hours column, and then you could multiply it by a rate to get the target budget billable time. Hours times rate equals time. And then you can add expenses for non-labor costs. This is how much I think the project is going to take in non-labor costs. And then when you add time and expense, Project Insight can calculate the values for total. That's what this checkbox is for, auto-calculate target values while entering. But in my case here, I have just a high-level $100,000 target budget that I'm going to shoot for. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to save and display this project. Okay. So here we are in our Client A Build a Program project. This is probably a familiar view to you. This is the planning view. You might set that as your default view. What the view means is these are the columns that I'm displaying for the task list. And when I'm in planning mode, this is probably what I need the most. This is the idea that I have a start date and end date. I have predetermined duration and work hours. Like I said before, this is already on the template. And the idea is that I can add resources and my predecessors and successors, making sure that everything populates based on what we've done in the past and what makes the most sense. Okay, so right now on this list view, there's no financial data displayed except for the work hours. Now, work hours is a financial field because it's the amount of time or effort that you think it'll take the resource to complete the task. So basically, these are your estimates. I'm going to give them 4 days to do this, but I think it's going to take them about 20 hours. Okay, so although only the work hours is being displayed, the current task list is also showing you, or is not showing you in the background, that there's cost and billing rates assigned to each of the resources on this task. So if I click on the resources view, I clicked on Jill's name, you may have noticed that there's a burden and a bill rate associated with this person. So burden rates are how much Jill costs us to do the work. You know, it's not usually only salary. It usually involves keeping the lights on as well, you know, all those other costs that we amortize. Go ahead and ask your financial department what number they think should go in here. And then, of course, there's the billable rate. Jill charges the client $100 an hour as she's working in Project Insight. Okay, where do these rates come from? That is an excellent question. Boy, do I appreciate that question. So let's go very quickly to contract rates. And the idea that in the Project Insight knowledge base here, I've searched for the term rate flow because Project Insight has a whole way it determines how you cost the work that's being done. I'm going to take you to that rate flow. It looks really stressful because it's a Visio and there's a lot of yes, no's in there. But trust me, go to the Project Insight knowledge base and search rate flow because this is a pretty nifty graph. When you add a resource to the task, I'm just going to take you through the first 1 or 2. It's going to ask, is there a rate already on the task for this resource? If yes, it's going to use the rate that's been given to the task. So this is a situation where, okay, normally 99% of the time, Jill costs us this much, but for this task, because it's an emergency task of an emergency-ness, It's a totally different rate that will supersede all the usual stuff we go through. Okay, let's say that there's no. Okay, there might be a rate on the project for this resource. No. All right, so maybe there's a resource type and role. So when Jill does the role of project manager, she's at this rate. When she does the role of developer or programmer, she's billed at that rate. You do have the opportunity to set this at all these different levels you see in Project Insight. It's pretty darn nifty, I'm not going to lie. For professional services teams who need this level of robust rate flow, we got it for you. However, you can also keep it simple, and you can build a contract client by client. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Down under your administration, companies, client A, we can take a look at the contract that client, or we can take a look at the contracts that client A potentially uses. So for example, click on client A here. These are my different contracts. So there's a fiscal year 2017. Maybe you have fiscal year 2018, 2019 as things change. But the idea is if I add a contract to this company, it'll set up different rates based on what we've negotiated. I mean, that's sales' entire job, right? Is to say when company A uses a business analyst, it's going to cost us 75. When they use a project manager, it's going to cost 150. If you have these set up in your business, feel free to use this feature. If you want to use this in your business, feel free to reach out for us for PI consulting, because this is one of our specialties. We love working in this area and helping clients maximize their profitability through negotiating contracts. All right, that was my topic on how to get the bill burden rates fit in here. All of that is done at the administration level to set up ahead of time. So me as the project manager, I just jump in here and build my project, and these bill and burden rates show up according to that workflow that's already been predetermined. Okay, so as I said before, we don't have any financial data displayed here except for the work hours. So let's go into our page display options, this cute little screen icon up here in the top right corner. And this changes the view of whatever page I'm looking at in Project Insight. You'll see me use it when we go to build some reports. You use it probably every day when you're working on your task list. Here are the columns. The last option here, it's expandable and collapsible. So if you don't see it looking like this, just click on the gray bar. It'll expand, I promise. Okay. The idea is you remove the stuff you don't want. You can do this quickly by double-clicking. Or you can highlight some things at once and move it all over this way. Whichever works best for you, feel free to make it happen. The other things you can do is select the columns that you actually want. So in this example, we're going to stick with some work billable columns. And yeah, there's a lot to choose from. I'm going to tell you the ones that are most important. For example, keep work hours. Then we'll want work billable rate. And you'll see me double click to get it to move over. Work billable time, work billable total. Now watch this. If I highlight work billable total and I want to move over work billable expense to be above that but below work billable time, I highlight work billable total, double click, and then it goes where I want it to go. Please save yourself time, because I see so many people putting something here, at the top and then going, oh man, I didn't want that here. Let me order it and move it a million times. Don't do that. Highlight where you want it, move it over. Pretty darn nifty if you ask me. Okay, so now let's hit refresh. Let's get this financial view looking how I want it to look. You know what? I missed one thing. I hate it when I do that. I want to put my resources back, just in case I want to show you. It's live, folks. This happens. Alrighty then. Here are the columns that I wanted to show you. Whoop. Work billable expense, work billable total, work billable rate, all that other fun stuff. Okay, so the work billable rate is the rate that's been assigned based on those flows that I already showed you. Okay, right now everything on this project is pretty straightforward. There's one resource assigned to everything. The only thing that's not is here in the closing meeting, and even if I click on these resources, they have the same rate as each other. So of course, the rate for this task is $100, as you can see that reflecting in this column here. However, if you have more than one resource on the task and they have different rates from each other, then the average is calculated to show what's the blended rate in this work billable rate column. So for example, the rate is calculated by taking the work hours for the first resource and multiplying it by the rate, and then taking the work hours for the second resource and multiplying it by their rate, and then dividing it by the total value of the number of hours. That means it's a weighted blended billable rate. If Jill has way more hours on it than Susie does in this example, then that's going to make the rate match closer to Jill's rate. Gotta love math. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how this work billable rate column calculates, and why is that important? That seems like a detail that I'm going into, but here's why it's important. Here's where all the rest of these fields come from. Work hours was the estimate how much we thought everything was going to take. I already told you that was coming. And then if you multiply that by the blended rate, you'll get the work billable time. Work billable time is hours times the rate. It's turning the level of effort into a dollar sign. And how it knows how to turn that into a monetary amount is by multiplying it by the rate we've assigned. Cool. Work billable expense. That's if you're going to purchase something for non-labor, you're going to go ahead and add something like maybe to determine the project scope, we're going to have a meeting with the client and we're going to buy them $100 worth of donuts. I'm doing my best, people. It's not a real life example. I added $100 to the work billable expense column. Now that changes the value of the work billable total to be the work billable time plus the work billable expense. And in this case, 2,000 plus 100 equals 2,100. All right, so this is a common formula you're going to see in Project Insight. Hours multiplied by rate gives you time. Time plus expenses gives you total. Okay, these same fields are available for costing as well, but again, we're focused on professional services, so this is the amount of money that we're billing our client. Actually, that does seem kind of silly that we'd bill them for the donuts that we brought, but you know, we're just passing the costs through, I suppose. All right, here's what I want to show you next. Work billable total. So if I close this summary task, Project Insight's going to roll up all the subtasks underneath to give me the total work billable for each summary task. But at the bottom of the project here, this is the total work billable for the entire project. So in the target billable total, which is what I filled in on the project edit screen, that was $100,000 because we estimated that we were going to charge the client $100,000. Now that I've built this project plan line by line, task by task, with real resources and their real rates, I can get a more accurate understanding of, okay, so we want it to cost about, or we're going to charge the client about $86,400. And that margin there might be for profit, or it might also be a little bit of wiggle room as the project moves. You know, we want to give ourselves a little bit of space that if things go over, we're not losing money on the deal. Okay, so let's say that it's as simple as that. I've built this project plan. It looks beautiful. Let's open up the scope here. To show you, I've got my individual tasks planned out. I can compare my task list work billable total to my target billable total. Now it's time to talk about billing. It's time to talk a little bit about where we get this target billable total number from, the $100,000 from. So let's, Alexa, I'm going to go off script. Are you cool with that?
Totally, let's do it.
All right, so now I'm ready to talk to you about this brand new item called the Project Insight Proposal. Okay, so here we are scoping out work for our client, and maybe we have the idea that, okay, in a typical build a program, I'm going to close the left nav, I'm going to show it to you in more detail. Here's the proposal in all its glory. So the idea is maybe we bill our client in 4 stages. Whenever we're going to build a program, whenever we're going to do software development, we build the first quarter after the scoping phase is done. Maybe we bill half of it, 50%, when define and develop to testing is done. And maybe we bill the final quarter of it after we've deployed to production. What I've done here, I'm going to start from the beginning. Go with me on this journey, everybody. Down in the administration section, so if you are not a Project Insight administrator, talk to your administrator today because this is really cool. There's a section called Get Apps and Add-ons. The Project Insight proposal is a new feature. We just built it, and it's ready for release down here in the Get Apps and Add-ons proposal item. It says preview, but trust me, it's cool. You don't have to wait. Okay, you'll get an option to install it here. So let's say this one. I don't have this one installed. So you'll get an option to say install. And then you'll get a button that says, thanks, you've successfully installed the proposal item. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's go in and build a proposal as though maybe this is how sales gets the information into the team. There's a lot of different business processes you could use. But go with me on this one that we're going to start from the proposal maybe because it's just an idea right now. We're just scoping it out to see if this is going to work. So I'll give it a name. Thankfully, my browser remembers all these things I've been doing over and over again. I can select the company. If I know what contract to use, I can select the contract. If I don't, feel free. You can always fill these lines in later. We even have a spot for the company contact. So if you have your clients in the system already, you can have Michelle hey, if you have a question about this, go talk to Michelle. You can assign it to someone and route it into the system. These are Project Insight users. So, one of the use cases I've already implemented for a team is there's one central person who handles all proposals, and we route it to them using this feature here. If you already have a project created, you could do this, build a program right here. But in this case, we haven't built anything yet, so I'm going to leave this blank. And then if you know any of the information, feel free to build business cases around how to use the rest of these fields. So if I save and display this proposal, this is going to look like what you saw before, only it's missing the line items that we're billing. So how you add those line items is either to add time or add expenses. In other words, add labor that we bill for, or add individual expenses that we charge for. Which one is right for you? That'll depend on how you build your business processes around it. So again, let's talk a little bit with PI Consulting if we want to look into that a little bit deeper. But for this purposes, I'm going to just call it time. You saw that my first thing on the list was scope. And you saw that the total I bill for the first phase of any project is $25,000 because it's a quarter of the price. Okay? I can add a description, but I won't. I'll just hit save. Add another line item. This one was design and develop for testing. This one was the $50,000 one. And you saw that on that other one, I did put a line item in here that can explain it a little deeper. So I'll show you what that looks like. Hit save and keep going, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the cool thing about this is, so it gets routed to the necessary approvals or whatever business process it goes through, it's now time to make a project. We want to scope this out in real time and see what those different plans look like. Project affiliation has a create project button underneath it. I'm pretty stoked about this. This is super neat. If you hit create project, it takes you to the project add edit form. It fills in everything that you have already selected. And so now I can pick this same template following the same processes over and over again of software development, etc. And I can launch this with the idea that it will remember these two things are linked. So the proposal is linked to the project. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to client A. I've done a little building in here. I've got some proposals already set up. And if I go to this one, it says create project. Let's go back. If I've got this one. Okay, so because I have enabled the proposal item in Project Insight, I now have a new option in the views called Invoice Records and Proposals. If I go in here, and I've done this right, which I haven't, it should link up. Give me a second. Here, let's go back. Told you it was live. Okay. Let's go to this proposal. And let's edit it. And let's build the project affiliation with this one, just in case. Okay. Okay. So let's go to this project. All right. So after that brief interlude, here I am in my build a program task list, all that fun stuff. I can even go back to my page display options, use my quick selection that I showed you about using. And if I've saved it, the way to save it is, by hitting the save icon. I can use the work billable fields to get right back to where I was before. So this is where I left you. Now we're all back on the same page. Look, it's still 86,300, all that good stuff. Okay. I told you I was going off script. Okay, so with that in mind, let's add some actuals so that I can show you what invoicing at the milestone will look like. So let's say that we're doing this scope phase, still in phase 1, still in the first quarter of what we build. And on secure project sponsorship, let's just say, I can add some time entries. I'm going to ask Jill in real life to be adding these time entries herself. That's what's more important. But as a project manager, I get the ability to add time entries on her behalf as well. Maybe I know she worked yesterday for several hours or whatever. So with this in mind, I want to show you that as a project manager, I get not only the actual hours column, but I get Jill's rate being explained, the billable rate being shown, and as a team member, I wouldn't see the dollar amounts, only as a project manager. So now that I've put a very minuscule amount of actual hours on here, I'm going to go back to the task list just to give us an orientation, and I'm going to show us the views, invoice records, and proposals. Okay, this is what it was supposed to look like. Thanks for sticking with me, peeps. So the proposal that I created is here. It's attached. It's for $100,000. This number matches the target billable total. Now, if I've reached this milestone, how would I know that, one says? Well, I've created a milestone called Scope Complete. I know that it's a milestone because I can add the indicator milestone to this project, refresh, and see that Scope Complete is a milestone. This is an important part. Maybe I assign it to accounting so that they can do the actual billing. Doesn't matter how we build the business process around it. Important thing is we got to Scope Complete. I get to bill some dollars. Okay, invoice records and proposals. All I have to do is go here, create new invoice, give the invoice a name. This is the scope phase, let's say. Hit save, and it's going to pull in all the line items from the proposal. How nifty is that? I mean, that's like super, super nifty. So it's as easy as going, wait a minute, I'm not billing all of it all at once. I'm only billing the first line item, so delete that. And then delete the one after it. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so now I'm only billing for scope. Now, in real life, I probably would have put in a description and all that ahead of time so that, this can look like it should look to the client or whatever. But here I have it. I've built it. It looks awesome. I'm ready to go. So if I go back to that page, I can keep track on my project what's been proposed, which is this orange bar, what's been invoiced, which is this green bar, based on how many milestones we've crossed, and I can keep track of the billable total. I'm pretty impressed with that. So I can start to see if this number in yellow is keeping underneath the yellow and green. Am I on target? Is it looking pretty good? How am I getting close to that $100,000 mark? Okay. All right. What do you think, Alexa? How are we doing?
We are doing good.
All righty then. So really where I want to go next, I've shown you the high level of comparing the Project Insight proposed amount, the $100,000, versus how we're doing in real time, which is the billable total amount, the actual hours that people have added into the system, and the invoiced total. Hey, in terms of my project lifecycle, I've gotten through the scope milestone, and I'm right in the middle of my develop and design milestone. There's one more place I can go to get some real-time information from Project Insight. Under Project Views, we have a project status page. This is where I have tons of cool details, like my health indicators. Hey, it's looking like I'm going to be over hours versus, behind blah, 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 blah. But let me draw your attention to the budget tab. This one's a little scary. Not a lot of people spend a lot of time down here, but if you're running a professional services project, let's demystify this for you. So first of all, I'll draw your attention to the target budget because that's the number that we put in ourselves. And a note, please note, the target budget number is not going to change unless the project manager changes it. It is a static value added on the project add edit form, intentionally to be that milestone, that marker, that indicator of we told the client we were going to bill them $100,000. Okay, actual totals, zoop. Actual totals are the work hours, or excuse me, are the time entries that have been added by your resources. So you saw that I had Jill go in and add 12 hours. Well, 12 times 100 is 1,200. And therefore, we're only at $1,200 billable for this project. Work total, let's demystify this. Work total billable was based on that line-by-line calculation that I added for task by task. Remember 86,300? That's where we left it. That's where it stays. Other things that you can look at is work estimate to complete and work estimate at completion, based on how much work we still have to get done. In all actuality, I haven't moved the progress on this project at all. I haven't marked any of the tasks complete. So of course we're pretty much where we were before. We're not really going anywhere, and plan value and earn value aren't showing anything. You'll get those 5 fields as you start to make progress on your project. Okay, so we've shown you how to manage this project as a project manager in your own little project manager world. But what comes up next is portfolio level reports. So to see the not only this project, but all of your projects across the whole system in their entirety. So let's go to the reports icon up here. And let's just go to project reports. I'm just going to start from scratch, showing you how easy it is. People get scared when they think they have to run reports because it's, have to get a query or ask someone in IT or do something crazy. Project Insight's super straightforward. I told you you'd get those display and filtering options again. Look at that. It's back. It's that same little page display icon here. It just brings up a bunch of filtering options. So some of the things that I might want to filter for are things like only show me active projects. You can make that distinction. If you don't select anything, it'll grab all the projects. You can change your date range if that makes sense. But what I really wanted to do is draw your attention to the group bys, which is how you can organize your data so that it's not just one big table of a bunch of different projects. Maybe I want to show it by my different companies. You know, the projects I'm doing for client A, the project I'm doing for client B, etc. This is where it really gets fun. Column selection options. You'll see that I expanded it by hitting the gray bar here. What I can do with the column selection options is I can do the same thing I did with the quick selections. I can remove columns I don't need, and I don't want any of this, and shift and remove all that. And let's say that I want the target budget billable. If I've clicked in this available columns list, I can start typing the name and it'll take me to the area. So, you know, if I hit T, I'm going to the target, you know, that kind of a thing. So target billable total. And then work total, let's do that. Work billable total. So again, this was the $100,000 in our example, the static number that I put in, target billable total. This is the work billable total, which was that calculated amount for about 86,000. What else do I want? Maybe I want the invoiced total. That was the green bar that shows how far have we invoiced these projects. Let's just go with that. Let's see what comes up here. I'll run the report. So this is the equivalent of the red, yellow, and green bars that you saw on that one project, project by project. But this one does it across all the systems. So let's see, our company, client A, client B, here's all these people who are, I can now compare those numbers side by side. Wait, Margaret, I want some cool charts. How do I get the cool charts that you saw on that one project? All right, let's go back to the page display options here. Let's close up these column selection options. Let's open up charting display options. I can add charts. I can add up to 4 charts on any project, and let's just stick with one because, you know, whoa there, okay? And let's also, company. Let's also aggregate it by company, so it'll show me the bars for company A, company B, etc. And let's do these same things. Let's do target budget total, target billable total. Let's do invoiced total. Let's do, what was the third one here? Work billable total. These are kind of my favorites I'm going to. And run the report. Ba, ba, ba. Pretty nifty if you ask me. Okay, a couple of others because we are definitely getting to our time. I've saved under my project reports here a couple of professional services where we can check actual profit. How much money did we make? And again, we can use a chart for that, where profit is in orange, work billable total is in yellow, and target billable total is in green. We can also get a percentage of profit actual. You know, feel free if you want to take a look at what these things actually mean to mouse over them, because you'll get the example of how we calculate this in the tooltip that's in that little yellow flag. And what else here? What other cool reports did I build? The cost report for fixed price projects. That includes not only the target billable that I love so very much, but also the work estimate at work estimate and completion, which is, hey, if we are going at the pace that we're going and then add the remaining budget that we have left of hours, this is how much it should take us to finish the project. Clearly, these projects are not doing so hot. My recovery percentage is well under 100%. So these kind of terms are definitely PMBOK oriented. So we can teach a whole other class on how to get these columns calculated. But if you already know what these columns do, go to the reports, pull them up, compare them side by side. You'd be pretty darn awesome to your bosses to show what all of these things mean. All right. Alexa.
Yes.
How do we do on my agenda?
Pretty good. I think we got through
Okay.
most things here.
Because I'm going to turn it over to Alexa and let her finish this up, guys. There's only a last couple of slides left, I promise.
Perfect. So we actually do have a question. Someone asked, can this product be used to get a proposal from a contractor to include an independent estimate?
So we might need some clarification to make sure I'm answering the right question here. But in terms of like proposing this and sending it out to the client so that they can compare?
Yeah, I'm thinking like reports.
Oh, proposal reports. I'm not sure about proposal reports, but definitely the way that the clients who are using this so far have used it is they actually send it outside. Oh, get an unbiased proposal for a professional services need. The idea behind it, if it's functioning as designed, is that you at our company owning Project Insight are sending out these proposals to your clients. So that's how it's functioning as designed. And yes, many of our clients actually do take the proposal that you see in Project Insight and turn it into a document or a PDF and send it out, or they have their clients actually log in. I've got both scenarios going, where they actually have their clients log in and run through a formal approval process of, yes, go ahead and start work on this. So in a way, you totally could do that. Ship it out and say, hey, this is basically our sales order of what we're estimating we're going to charge you. Are you okay with this?
Cool, so that's it for the questions. So I'll go ahead and we have just a few more slides for you before we end the session. Thanks so much, Margaret. So I'm going to go ahead and take back presenter rights. And for those of you on social media, we'd like to invite you to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media channels. Our handle on Twitter is @ProjectInsight. And of course, you can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for the latest in PI news. And to request your free demo of our enterprise platform, go ahead and type in the URL projectinsight.net/trial. And we'd also like to invite you to sign up or refer a friend to use PI Team, our free social project management software. You could go ahead and sign up at projectinsight.net/team. And of course, if you want more information about any of our products, please feel free to contact our product experts, our PI pros at the number and email listed there on the slide. And in our Project Insight community, you'll find many recorded videos and webinars for you to watch and learn from. You can sign up for your next webinar by visiting our webinar calendar. And that's all we have for you today. We'd like to thank Margaret for a great session and, of course, our audience for your time as usual. And we hope to have you on board for our next webinar. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.